So, you know how sometimes the official story about a major world event just doesn't quite add up? Well, what if I told you that one of the biggest military operations of the decade was, according to our source material, built on a complete lie? Okay, let's dive into a hidden conflict for a prize that could literally define the next century. It all kicks off with this one massive question. On January 3rd, 2026, U.S. Special Forces launched this lightning-fast raid into Venezuela, but the reason the world was given for it? Yeah, that's not the real story. The story that went public was super simple, very clean. It was a classic good guys versus bad guys narrative, a decisive strike against powerful drug cartels, with the country's leadership being targeted for their supposed involvement. It was all about fighting crime and corruption. But our source material argues that was just a smokescreen. The real motive was far bigger, far more strategic, and hidden deep beneath the Venezuelan soil. And get this, it wasn't even about Venezuela's famous oil reserves, which, by the way, are the largest on the entire planet. Nope, the real target was a treasure of a completely different kind, one that's going to power the technology of our future. The real prize has a number attached to it, $1.4 trillion. That's trillion with a T. That's the estimated value of the untapped mineral wealth that the world's two biggest superpowers are now fighting over. And this treasure is all located in a region known as the Orinoco Mining Arc. You really should think of it as a kind of geological Fort Knox. It's one of the last great frontiers for the strategic minerals that our entire modern world is built on. So what's actually in this treasure chest? Well, we're talking about coltan, which is essential for our phones and advanced electronics. We're talking about rare earth elements, the absolute backbone of EVs and green energy. You've got thorium, a potential fuel for next-gen nuclear reactors, and of course, just massive, massive deposits of gold. This fight for the minerals buried deep in the Earth's crust is what our source calls the dawn of a new kind of global conflict. It's not a war over oil anymore. It's a war for the ground itself. And here's the core argument. The operation in Venezuela wasn't just another intervention. No way. It was the very first shot in the Lithosphere War, a battle for the raw materials that will determine technological and military dominance for decades to come. But America wasn't the only power with its eyes on this prize. For 20 years, China had been quietly and methodically laying the groundwork to control this exact treasure. They were playing the long game, and it put them in the perfect position, or so they thought. And the sheer scale of China's long game here is just incredible. They poured over $60 billion into Venezuela. Then, and this is the critical part, in 2012, a state-owned company began creating detailed geological maps of the region's mineral wealth. By 2023, the two nations were all-weather partners. And then, in just a few hours on January 3rd, that entire 20-year investment was wiped out. This sudden move created a fascinatingly unbalanced conflict. You have two superpowers in a standoff, but their advantages and disadvantages are complete opposites. So who really has the upper hand here? So the dynamic is fascinating. It's a case of might versus maps. On one side, the U.S. has military might. They have boots on the ground and control the ports. But, and this is a huge but, they are informationally blind, relying on geological surveys from the 1990s. China, on the other hand, has the maps. They hold the only modern comprehensive data on where the most valuable minerals are located, and they dominate the global processing supply chains. So how on earth did the U.S. justify such an aggressive move? Well, according to the source, it was driven by a radical new foreign policy doctrine, one that basically rewrites all the old rules of American intervention. It's being called the Trump corollary. It's essentially a reboot of the old Monroe Doctrine, which warned European powers to stay out of the Americas, but it's been supercharged for the 21st century. The new focus isn't just about influence, it's about direct physical control over strategic resources. This doctrine stands on three aggressive pillars. First, resource sovereignty, which makes control of minerals a matter of national security. Second, hemispheric denial, which is all about actively blocking rivals like China from gaining a foothold. And third, the most radical part, payback. The idea is that the U.S. will seize a country's assets to make them pay for the cost of the very military operation used to intervene there. This action has triggered a new, highly unstable global standoff. The fallout from the Venezuela operation isn't contained to the Caribbean. It's sending shockwaves across the entire world. Because while America may have won the physical battle for Venezuela's resources, China has other ways to fight back in this new Lithosphere War. The battlefield is now global. And here is China's trump card. This chart shows their near-total monopoly on the processing of rare earth elements, controlling around 90% of the world's capacity. You can dig a mineral out of the ground in Venezuela, but you still need China to refine it into something usable. This gives them a powerful choke point on the global economy. And they immediately used that power. Just days after the U.S. operation, China retaliated, not by sending warships to the Caribbean, but by halting exports of critical minerals to Japan, one of America's closest allies. It was an asymmetric strike, showing they can inflict economic pain anywhere in the world. So this leaves us with the ultimate question posed by the source. This new conflict isn't just about one country's treasure. It's a fight for the fundamental building blocks of our future. A struggle that will determine who controls the supply chains, the technology, and the power. In short, who will hold the remote control to the 21st century?